Dinner with Friends podcast. Y'all hungry?
Hello, and welcome to the Dinner with Friends podcast. My name is Nathan, and I'm joined by
Journey,
Taylor,
and most importantly, our special guest of the day, Mystkue. Mystkue is a local sex educator who one of your specialties is educating young adults in what it means to engage in proper sexual health, if that's something they have not learned in school or are just curious about in general. And on top of that, Mystkue is the CEO of Mystkue Productions.
I know that's right.
Come on.
I'm an actor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we do want to start with our question,
we
Journey.
have a question that we like to ask to break the ice. A
It's
little
a
fun
yummy
question.
question.
It's a very yummy question. And we like to ask, what food do you feel like today?
Today I feel like strawberries.
Ooh.
Strawberries. Chocolate covered strawberries.
Oh,
to be exact.
Come on.
That's expensive.
Expensive.
That's expensive.
No, you can melt
Nah.
some chocolate.
You
Like
know,
on some
go to
real tight
Walmart
time,
and
you
get
can
the,
get
like,
to
chocolate
DoorDash
chips
and
and melt.
chocolate covered strawberries for like $11.99.
But I think the ideal of it, it's like not just
But
a
it's-
regular
it's still
strawberry.
expensive.
It's a chocolate covered strawberry, you know? What food do you feel like, Taylor?
Ooh. Spaghetti noodle.
Just one singular spaghetti noodle?
One noodle, no sauce.
Right.
I like it.
Butter. Salt,
noodle.
pepper, and garlic powder.
Right.
With Parmigiano Reggiano encrusted on it.
That's very specific.
Yes.
Chickpea pasta.
All right.
Yep.
Ethan.
I
Yep.
am feeling like caviar.
Oh.
Caviar.
Come on,
Expensive taste from
aphrodisiac.
Cascade.
Because I
Like,
feel like,
yeah, what?
we're about to get into a complex topic.
Well,
so
shoot. I want to be
feel like
escargot.
I'm feeling complex. I'm feeling, just like rich with flavor.
Okay.
Something that, isn't as accessible to everyone but should be.
Come on.
You heard it.
Come on.
You heard it
I like
first here
that.
now.
Say that again.
Something that isn't accessible to everyone but should be.
No, it shouldn't. Protect your spirit.
I don't know. I feel like I don't want to say something like corny now.
I was
like
about
need
to
something.
say
No, say
yeah.
whatever.
Let me
What's
not be a
speak your mind.
I don't know. What food do I feel like? I feel like I usually have an answer. Maybe like a chocolate chip cookie, but like with good chocolate.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Ghirardelli.
Ganache.
Is that how you say
Okay.
it?
Ganache.
Okay.
Ganache.
Well, then I want to
The
change my
imported
answer.
No,
chocolate.
be your noodle.
But yours was so like
Yes.
succulent and
Mm-hmm.
it was
Oh,
so
I'm
descriptive.
succubus.
Speaking of food, we're going to go to our next topic, which is
You ate that.
And we're just going to focus on a person, place, or project, local or national, that specializes in the topic that we're focused on today. So today we're going to give a shout out to the Philadelphia Department of Health, specifically their sexual health department, just because of a lot of the resources they offer, whether it be STI testing, whether it be preventative care or even vaccines, because I remember during the monkeypox scare last year, they were the first and probably the only proactive organization in the city that were offering vaccines. And I think that deserves a lot of credit because you are keeping so many people safe and healthy. So we want to give a special shout out to you. Thank you. And if you want to learn more, look up the Philadelphia Department of Health's website and find the sexual health department's, little tab. Because for real, if you live in the Philadelphia area, they're doing so much for the community.
Absolutely.
So much. But I think we're getting a call.
Do y'all hear that?
Yeah, I was about to say. I think
like
Hello?
something.
did someone forget to turn their phone.
Yeah, it was me before. Hold on. Hello? Yeah.
Oh,
Y'all.
what
Sorry.
happened?
It was John. He's so fine. The takeout's here.
Oh, the takeout's here.
Takeout is this segment where we like to take it out to the streets and ask people questions about the topic we're discussing in studio.
It's Miss Veggies in here.
That sounds good.
Were you ever taught about sexual education in school? Poorly. I feel like it's just mostly like practice abstinence, and then there's not really much about emotionally what's going on with people when they are attracted to each other. Whereas I feel like there's a lot of things that like could be prevented, dangers that could be prevented, if we were kind of taught about what it's like to be going through those experiences on like an interpersonal basis, rather than if it was just like it's like pure sex, like just be abstinent and forget about everything else, if that makes sense. Were you ever taught about sexual health in school?
Yes, but not just for like a half a period and like for one semester. It was very long ago, and I was in my first year in high school, so we only had physical sexual ed in ninth grade, and like we had it, like I said, for like half of the semester. It really wasn't a class of like knowledge based in what you were learning. It's just basically physical health, and they were just trying to tie in the anatomy to it at times. But we really didn't learn what we now know today. So.
Were you ever taught about sexual education in school?
Yes. So I feel like I remember just a health class in high school, maybe like ninth grade. And it was like kind of like the basic health class that you see on shows or movies. And it's like abstinence based, showing all the pictures of the diseases, telling us like not to have sex. And then I vividly remember having a baby that we had to take home for 2 days and take care of and figure out like how it cried and what it needed. And I got an A- on the project because I let my mom watch it and his head snapped back. I was really mad at her, but ultimately it was my fault for leaving the baby.
So would you say that this was an adequate education in regards to sexual education?
No, definitely not. I feel like I learned a lot more when I, like went to college and tried to start doing a lot more research on my own because, as young women, I feel like we're not necessarily taught as much about like sexual health in like a positive way. And so I feel like I had to do more of that research for myself.
All right, so now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of the
I'm
conversation.
pescatarian.
Oh.
The salmon and potatoes
Thank you.
of the
Yes.
conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, food for thought. So I want to ask you guys a question. Were you taught about sexual education in school?
Like, that's the name.
Sex ed.
Sex ed.
Yeah, that's what they said. That's not what they did.
Expand on that.
My sex ed class was like, don't have sex, you'll get pregnant. But also, don't do drugs. And mostly, don't the first day of sex ed, they didn't even show anything like in regards to the reproductive system. It was a documentary on a man eating McDonald's every day for a month.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we did, in fact, also watch. What was it
Wait,
called?
is this like
Super
a comic?
size.
Super
Size
size
Me.
me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, we also watched that.
Yep.
So sad.
Nothing
I'm so
to
sorry
do.
for you.
Yeah, me too.
Journey Mystique, how about you guys?
We didn't even have a sex ed option.
Wow.
Like, it's not offered. It's health
You
and
go to Christian school?
physical. No, I don't.
Oh.
It's health and physical education, but I assumed like in health that would be like rooted in there, but like no, not at all.
Really?
Like even like going through the tabs to see like the upcoming modules, what we would be talking about. It's never that. Like a semester sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's just like diet, health, exercising, like drinking, drugs, but it's never sexual health.
This is so interesting.
I learned more
And
about
that's
opioids
it's a
than I
topic
did.
to bring up at some point later, but I also do want to, and I was just talking about this with a friend, how toxic the diet culture is taught,
Yes.
that's taught in health class, because they're
Yes.
like, and the fact that they make you count your calories, or at least
Yeah.
ours did, that was,
Or, like,
Count
fill
my
out quizzes
calories.
about yourself. It's like
yeah, that was
shaming.
in itself a whole other thing.
How
but-
do you want me to do that? I don't look at what I eat when I eat it. I usually eat with my eyes closed like this.
Mystique, how about you?
So I'm going to age myself a little bit, but I actually didn't get sex ed in high school. I got it in middle school. So in Philadelphia, there was a program called DARE, and it was mostly around drugs and like preventing, drug use and things of that nature. But they did do a little bit of sex education. And even in that, the sex education was very much so the same thing that you said. Don't have sex, you're going to get something called blue balls.
Whoa!
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't?
It does not exist.
Oh,
it is
my
a fabrication.
God.
It does not exist. And then there was a lot of like HIV prevention, but the HIV prevention that they were speaking about wasn't really giving us the information that we need to know of like actually how do you get HIV, right? Like how does it transmit? It was the just don't do it or you're going to end up with this.
Yeah.
And so it was very
The abstinence
scare-based.
culture.
scare tactic, fear tactics, yes, abstinence only type situation. So yeah.
Interesting.
When I finally like actually got like a in-depth sex ed class, it actually was in my living room. Well, it was in my parents' living room with my sisters, and they taught me like all the things like what crabs is, and that when you put on a condom, you just gotta like pinch it.
You gotta pinch the tip.
So you weren't taught in school. You were taught by family.
Yeah,
What does that say about the education system?
Yeah, like wow.
a lot.
And I feel like not teaching us about sex and sexual health definitely, I think that puts a hindrance on like the way we perceive it.
Yeah.
So what were your attitudes all growing up towards the idea of, sexual health? Because I know for a lot of people it's just like a taboo. It's like we don't talk about it. Now we don't, know anything about it. But now like, that we're growing up and like we're realizing the world as is. And I mean, this applies to you because you're still growing up. Everyone's still growing up.
Absolutely.
How have your attitudes towards, sexual health changed over time?
I would say that I think for me, one of the biggest things that I had to recognize was the individuals who had been traumatized in my life and how they were taught about sex, because we live in a culture where it's, oh, let's brush everything under the rug, right? And so what that looks like, if we got Uncle Tom who is touching on our youth and our kids, we're not supposed to say anything. And so that plays into what sex education is. And if you don't know how to communicate, and or if you don't even know what is the no touch zone of your private parts, as you will, then it causes a problem. But also too, I think for me growing up, once I figured out like, oh, like this is trauma, this is what that looks like, then it was like, all right, well, how do I make it so that I know what I'm talking about? Because yes, you all have the songs now, but we had songs too. We had Laffy Taffy.
Whoa.
Right. Yeah. Right. We
First
had
of
My
all-
Neck, My Back. We had all of these songs. And this is why what you all are doing is so amazing in media literacy, because I was singing these songs and had no idea. I
At all.
remember one
I know
of the
y'all know
first times
Whistle.
I got in a lot of trouble was I was singing Ludacris's What's Your Fantasy?
Whoa. Wow.
My mom never stopped the car so fast. She was
No,
like,
whoa.
you better not be singing this song. And
That
I was
was
just
for
like,
me, except it was blurred lines.
but I was just singing a song.
That's what I
didn't
thought.
know, but the reality was I was singing about these acts that were happening and saying
the
all of
whistle.
these things that are very vulgar. If you go back and listen to the song and listen to the lyrics, it's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have been singing that.
Wait,
in
My Neck,
sixth
My
grade.
Back was on the radio?
Oh
Yeah.
Oh yes.
What?
That's,
the
that, you know what
radio.
that reminds me of S&M by Rihanna.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was like
whoa,
every-
whoa, that was a lot.
Yeah, or
That
what?
was
Yeah, think
crazy.
more like, you know what I mean?
That
Insane.
was recent.
And it's like,
But that's the thing. WAP is just a resurgence of what used to be. Because you had
they
you
was
had
doing
Little
that in
Kim
the 20s.
Hardcore in what was that, 96, I believe, and she was busting it wide open.
Wow.
Believe it or not, that's what y'all say, busting it wide open, right? And that was her cover though. That was her on the cover.
Yeah. No, it was one song, I think it's from like the 20s. What's it like, Scratch 'em Dead or something like that? Or something like that. But it's like she is very beautiful, very classy. And this woman is saying some of the most disgusting things I've ever heard come out of somebody's mouth ever. Like, it's just so vulgar. And I think that that's really crazy, because this is also the generation that be like, no, don't have sex. No, don't have sex because it makes you bad. But Miss Ma'am over here, she was talking about it all.
I think because since you bring that up, there's a stark difference in what the media presents and like what
Yeah.
our educators and like parents and things of that nature present. Because on one hand, and they're entirely two different sides on the spectrum, and I feel like they can both be really harmful. Because like on one hand, you have educators and parents being like, abstinence, this, that, like that's the only way. And then on the other hand, you have the media shows like Euphoria telling you that like, oh, if you're 16
Yeah.
and you're not doing this, that, and the third, then you're behind.
Never have
and
I ever.
portraying how it's done, or so-called, it to someone who has never had been educated or has never even
That
like
would be
began
scary
to
for
talk
me.
about it. To see that as your first like representation of
Very
a
much so.
sexual act on a screen
Yeah.
is quite crazy.
And you know what?
Exactly.
I think that it's also really important to talk about the sex that these people have on these shows is never something that feels loving. It's always like real.
It's
Toxic.
traumatized,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a lot. I feel like that's a whole lot.
You can find that in a lot of Sam Levinson shows. Because, like, what, The Idol?
Yeah. I
That
feel
was
like-
just,
I
and
feel
did you
like
see the
he might,
controversy
like-
behind
Yeah.
The Idol? And
So I want to
yeah.
point out something about the things that you all see on media. A lot of time it's super, super fabricated, and there's like, take 1, take 2, take
Yeah.
17, take 25, right? It's not as fluid as they make it. They have the editing, they have all of that stuff. That's 1. 2, oftentimes a lot of it is unethical, right? So there's a lot of things that is going on that are not really healthy for the performers. And the messages that it is putting out is harmful to our youth, especially if they don't have a support system and or anyone who is giving them the sex education that they need.
what are the different harmful ways you think that media such as that is affecting young adults?
Well, I think first, just over sexualization. Like, that's the first
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
If you are a person of color or an indigenous person, unfortunately, in our genes and in our bodies, you know, we shape and we grow. And I
We
don't know
bad.
what the people say this time. Like, I don't know what's in the milk that y'all drinking or whatever the case may be. But
It's them lab grown chicken nuggets.
whatever it is, right?
Them
But
big
our
bags.
bodies are
Yes.
adhering to it, right? And so if you
Mine
have
ain't.
on shorts, a t-shirt, but you are a person that has some curves, then all of a sudden now you fast. And you just walking down the street minding your
Because
business.
grandma, why wasn't I allowed to wear red nail polish? It was my favorite color. What does
Right.
that have to do with anything?
You couldn't wear red nail polish because that means that you were promiscuous, right? You can't wear lipstick and all of those things. So oftentimes it is because we have these storylines that have been told for years and years about what bodies mean and what they look like, to then tell us that, oh, well, because I just woke up like this one day, I got puberty and puberty hit me, and I can't help that I have hips and thighs and all of that stuff. But now all of a sudden I'm over-sexualized, and I can't stop the gentleman walking down the street who thinks I'm 17 and I'm 14 from looking at me. But now that's my fault. That's on me as a
Right.
young female. But even for young men, you have Lil Boozy, right? So
Yo,
you have rappers
that
like
was
Lil
wild.
Boozy who think it's okay to tell their sons, oh, you need to be having sex.
Exactly.
And they're 13, 14 years old.
And
and
his
tell it-
son like 10?
He might have been even younger than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
But it's the
Boosie ain't never been right though.
true. I mean, you know, he got some good music, but you know.
No, but he ain't never been
However, the logic behind it is because this is what boys are supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
This is what it's supposed to be, and it's not, because that's also traumatizing. That's also a message that is incorrect, and that is why there's a lot of young men who don't know how to, 1, effectively communicate, and 2, who believe that they have to be sexual at this young age. It's one thing to be sexual because it's in our nature. Everybody is meant to be sexual, and everybody is meant to explore and figure out what it is that you like on your bodies. On your bodies. I want to be clear about that, right? But it's another thing to invite a whole nother person who you haven't necessarily done the work to be able to figure out what it is that you all want to do together as a collective agreement, and what that looks like moving forward.
I like that.
Wow.
To Journey and Taylon,
So
do you
impressed.
guys feel those pressures, or like do you witness those pressures in a high school setting?
Well,
100%. I don't want to speak for you, but
I was about to, I want to
No.
hear what do you both have to say
but it's
about
sort of like hidden pressure, you know, like that. I'll never, especially like now that in 2023, no one's gonna walk up to your face and say like, you need to do this, or like push you up against a locker and like
girl,
bully you
I
for it.
wish
But
you would.
like, as in forms of like how they perceive you, if you haven't done certain things, or if you know you believe this, or if you're out of the know, like if they say a reference, like a code name for something, and you're like, I don't understand, it's like,
Pineapple.
oh, you're
Honey pack.
yeah, there's a few.
I was yesterday years old when I found out what that was, and I was like,
Oh.
what? What's that?
But
How
like
do you
they'll
feel?
say these things, and if you don't understand it, then it's like you're weird. Like, oh,
Yeah.
she's just a little kid. She doesn't know what's going on, you know? And it's like sort of it leaves you feeling excluded from people who are supposed to be your community, your age, you know, people who are supposed to understand and accept you.
I'm kind of like on the other end of the spectrum, whereas like I'm cute or whatever, and I know that about myself, and apparently the others do too. So, anyways, I used to be like not so cute. And I was ugly. I was not a cute
We don't
looking.
claim that.
I wasn't
We don't
no,
claim
I
that.
wasn't ugly, but I was not a cute looking girl. I don't care. You can't convince me. Anyways, so for like most of my middle school life and like up until probably junior year, I just like people would just randomly be like, oh, you're never gonna find a boyfriend because you're so ugly and your butt is flat and First of all,
Little booties matter.
little booties do matter. Thank you so much. But then all of a sudden, you know, my hips and thighs started to hypnotize, and now everybody want me, and I just don't like it'll. Oh my God, what happened? I was walking to the corner store by my house, and this guy was like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. Can I get your number? And I was like, no, but you can have my Instagram. And so he's like, okay. And he was like, well, yeah, how old are you? And I was like, I'm 17. He was like, oh, well, I'm 23. How do you feel about that? I was like, I don't feel great about it. And then I look at his Instagram, and this man had a son 2 months ago, and I was just like, I just kind of feel like there, and I knew that he wasn't like trying to talk to me on like some I want you to be my wife. He was on some, you know, bump and go type time, but I just feel like there's kind of a stigma that you have to just. Why can't people just love each other and like be The Notebook? Why does everybody have to be Temptation by Tyler Perry?
Yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up, how it feels more recently that the love factor of like, or like the intimate part of like how people perceive sex and everything has been removed.
Yeah.
And I think that like how it's represented and how people talk about it now or like boast about it isn't helping.
And people want to be toxic so bad, and I think that's so odd.
Very much so. Now, the pressures that you guys speak about, I guess my question is more so for Mystique. Are those things that continue into adulthood? Like all, you know, the issues we're dealing with and, you know, like the lack of sexual education and whatnot. Are those things that like you see carry into adulthood?
Absolutely. I've taught every
Crap.
person from 12 to 75. Right?
Wow.
I have conversations with my grandmother. She's not 75. If she heard me say that, she'd probably go off. She's nowhere near close to that. But I've had conversations with people, and I might say vulva, and they will look at me like I just named something from outer space, and they're like, what is that? And I'm like, that is what the female reproductive, that's what it's called. And they're like, oh, I didn't know, right? And so oftentimes it's about language. And so I want to go back to something that you said. You said this person was 23 and you're 17.
Yes.
So you all have something called youth rights, right? So,
What that mean?
so basically what that means is if you are older than 14, you're able to go to the doctors and they will, you know, do STI testing. They'll do all of that stuff.
Are you
without
serious?
Without calling your parent, because
Y'all, the more you know.
Y'all have rights. But also, too, there's an age of consent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you all know what that age is?
16.
16. And so, absolutely. So at the age of consent, that means that you all can consent to all of these things. However, that means that a 23-year-old, even if he was 18 and you were 17, technically he would be breaking the law if you were to engage in sex, regardless of the fact.
Wait, but how if it's consent?
Because so if you were 16 or if you were 15 and he was 17, he would still be breaking the law because the age of consent is 16, right?
Oh.
And technically you're 17, but you're not an adult.
Somebody
And
going to
so
jail.
if you were to engage in that and you were to take on this person that's 23 years old, he would be breaking the law. And a lot of people don't understand that. And
Would
they don't
I be
know
breaking
that.
the law?
You wouldn't, because you're underage.
Oh.
But the
You're the
23-year-old,
That's insane.
most definitely.
I
Yeah.
think youths understanding their rights whenever it comes to sexual health is insanely important, and just sex in general. And I love that you brought that up. I was wondering, are there any other things that, like, youths should be aware of that they're
Yeah,
entitled to, or
like
just
tips
young
or
adults in
anything.
general that are otherwise talked about? Because I mean, I'm just learning about the youth rights thing right now, and I mean that's blowing my mind. So I want to know, is there anything else that should be talked about that isn't often talked about?
Well, yeah, I think one of the things that you brought up too is this idea of hyper and hyposexualization. And so hypersexualization is basically an individual who may have experienced trauma, who is like a nympho, if you will. Like everything is about sex. They're like all over, right? And then you have hypo, who are individuals who also might have had trauma or not, and they're just not interested. So they retract. They don't want anything to do when we talk about sexuality. So it's really important to be able to understand the nuances of people. And I think one of the misconceptions about sex educators and sex education in general is that everything is penis and vagina. No, right? A lot of the times I'm talking about who you are as an individual. What do you like? What don't you like? What is pleasure? What is intimacy? And so being able to really define what those things mean to you is important. Pleasure. If you like noodles, right? Do you like
noodles.
strawberries? All of those things are things that we enjoy, right? So it would be pleasurable to us. That's the same definition. Same thing with intimacy. You mentioned intimacy being so far-fetched. Most of the times when you ask youth, like, what is intimacy? They automatically think of sex, not closeness.
Ooh, I wanted to talk about this so
Right?
bad.
It's not about
Yeah.
being in close proximity or, just feeling comfortable or cozy, because that's what the actual definition of it is. And then, yes, there is the act of intimacy, but what does that look like? We don't see that besides 50 Shades of Grey, and even that is very much so a
Yikes.
stretch, right? And that was also very
that
toxic.
was really, really intense.
And that actually segues into what I was about to ask.
yeah.
Do you think the media blurs the line between intimacy and sex? Because
Absolutely.
I feel like a lot of people think like, oh, to be in love, to have that intimacy, I need to be having sex. And the same exact things that I see in the media, such as 50 Shades of Grey, that's what I need to be engaging in just to be able to feel loved. And I feel like that's especially harmful to young adults. Is that something you feel is absolutely pushed, like the separation between intimacy and sex? Or not separation, but more so the under separation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that we all know that sex sells, right? So one of the blessings is that I am in a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar, if you will, business. However, there are so many misconceptions, because the reality is everybody thinks that they know everything, right? And then we quickly learn when you just having general conversation, like, ooh, yeah, no, you don't, right? And so I think the idea of, oh, well, intimacy is sex. It could be, but there's people who don't have sex in their relationships. There's people who really strive and build off of long walks in the park, holding hands, watching television shows, all of those things. Just having general conversations. This conversation here, right? Sitting around the table, Sunday dinners, if that's what them and their family
Dinner
do.
with
All
friends.
of those things, right, are acts of intimacy,
Yeah.
because it's creating a camaraderie and a community for people to come together. And I think that when it's not spoken in that, and all you see is, oh, let's get naked. Not all the stuff that comes before of, well, what made you want to make that decision to say, I'm going to sleep with this person? What questions are you asking? Or are you not asking any questions at all? Because the first question I'm going to ask is, when's the last time you
got tested?
Come on.
Right? And if you say, I gotta go. I
Yeah.
don't. If you, I'm like,
I actually
DJ,
found
are
out
you
you're
a
supposed to be
DJ?
getting tested.
What's
What?
happening?
Are you Diplo? Like,
'Cause I'm very confused as to why you cannot answer that question.
I found out you're supposed to be getting tested like every 3 months.
Yes. So if you
Psych.
are a sexually active person, you should be getting tested every 3 months. So there's also an incubation period, right? So say today you have sex and you have sex unprotected. You can't go to the clinic tomorrow and say, hey, can y'all test me?
How
Not
long you
gonna
gotta
know.
wait?
You need to wait at least between
Whoa.
2 weeks and 4 weeks.
Well,
For HIV,
That's
it's 30
too many
days.
days.
Right?
That's too many days.
That's what it is, right? And so, but that's why they say every 3 months, because in that 3 month time span, that 30 days has passed. And if you are going to have symptoms,
All your stuff can settle in.
your symptoms may start to develop. But I want to be clear that if you have any type of STI, the number one symptom is no symptom at all.
Really?
That's tough.
Yeah.
And not in the
See,
good
these are
way.
the things
This
they don't
is-
teach you in sexual
this is
education.
real.
Wow,
'Cause
I've been
what?
so silent because I'm so interested in everything she is saying. I'm hanging off of every word.
I'm telling you.
Like,
It gets real.
wow.
What I say,
Yeah.
this is what I say to all of the youth, right? STIs are for everybody. Right? They just
don't
are.
want it to be
There's
for
no
me.
name. There's no like, oh, I'm gonna pick you. Nah. If you are having sex unprotected, best believe that it's gonna catch up with you. Right?
Is there anywhere you would recommend young adults and just adults in general, because this is information
Yeah, that's
everyone
for
should be aware.
everybody.
Is there anywhere you recommend they go to get tested or just to learn more about information such as this?
Yeah.
You can even
So
hype yourself.
hey. So yes. So I work with St. Chris Hospital for Children. They have a great team. They are amazing. And so that is going to be for youth that are up to age 18. And then you have the Attic Youth Center as well that does a lot of wonderful work for all ages. Babashi is a Black-owned organization that also does testing, and that is in Center City. I actually just posted on my Instagram that there is 45 different places in the city of Philadelphia where you can go and get tested.
Get tested today, guys.
Wow.
Yes, go and get
And
tested.
then continue every 3 months.
But also
Yes.
to get on DoxyPep. If you're not on DoxyPep, get on DoxyPep. So DoxyPep,
Is that like a
it sounds crazy, but it's actually like Plan B.
Sound like
But
a
it's
good
Plan
candy.
B to.
It do sound like a real good candy or like a
I
website.
don't know if I want to call it candy. Don't pop it like it's candy, because no.
Don't
So-
pop don't pop things, guys.
Yeah, essentially what it's for is to prevent you from contracting syphilis, gonorrhea, or chlamydia,
What
which
are
are those
Sexual
are our
transmitted
STIs.
Well, I know that they're STIs, but like what
So they're all bacterial diseases or infections, if you will.
And is DoxyPep something that can be taken alongside PrEP?
Yes, absolutely. And so the thing about DoxyPep is you have between 24 and 72 hours to take it, so that is most effective. So again,
Oh, so it's not like birth control. You don't take it every day.
yeah, you don't take it
Okay.
every day. Now, if you get on PrEP. PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. And so that is the medication that prevents you from having HIV. And right now, I will tell you that 59% of African American women are being diagnosed with HIV
Are you-
in Pennsylvania. Right?
No.
My young African American men are at 46%. I
Nah.
know this because I'm doing a campaign about it right now called Black Women Prep Too.
This is too that's like
No.
a really big amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, as compared to their white counterparts and mixed race who are at about 24%.
I
So
had
it's-
something to
it's
say, but
almost
I'm just
double.
not gonna say it.
Are these medications that people under 18 can take?
Absolutely. So St. Chris,
Do you
I
have any in
actually
your
just
purse?
took 3. I don't have any in my purse. So
Okay.
you can't buy it off. You can't.
No, not like
But
'cause
no,
like,
I'm just saying you can't, right? So what I can do is I can tell you this. If you call me and you say, hey, Mystique, can you take me to go get prep? I will most definitely take you to go get prep.
Oh,
In the
yay.
last week, I've taken 3 youth to go get on prep. So yes, you can get on prep. What they do is you'll go, they'll ask you, they'll do a sexual health assessment. They'll just ask you about your sexual journey. A lot of people have a misconception like, oh, well, I don't have sex with, I'm a young man. I don't have sex with men. Well,
don't got nothing to
actually,
do with it.
one of the highest transmissions is through heterosexual sex, right? Also anal sex. So if you into some butt stuff, hey, it is what it is, right? So they'll ask you all of those questions, and then they'll ask you, well, which would you prefer? Would you prefer to take a pill every day like birth control? The thing about that is if you're taking the pill every day, you have to make sure that you take it every day at the same time. So for example, I'm on prep, right? Because
is there a shot?
there is a shot. Here's the thing about the shot. The shot, no, it's nothing bad. It's just every 2 months, right? So again, you still have to make sure that you're staying in your routine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Now, what does it mean? Because you brought up a scary statistic that 59% of African American 59% of African American women are being diagnosed with HIV, and I believe it was 46% of black men.
Like
Yeah.
that?
Now, what happens once you receive that diagnosis? Because I can imagine for a lot of people, like that, just the thoughts of that running through their head, spiraling.
Yeah.
So, what happens, and what are the preventative measures that you could take once learning about that?
Well, the first thing that you can do is definitely make sure that you're using condoms, right?
Wrap it up.
Yeah. What they say, no glove, no love, right?
What?
All the
said
things.
that?
What? You never heard? No?
saying.
Oh yeah. See, I must be really showing my age. Anyway, the point of the matter is, yes. So essentially, hypothetically, the other day when I took the youth, I actually got tested. So if you look really closely, you can see my finger prick, and it's really rapid. So if you were to test positive, what would happen is they would look, they will tell you right then and there, this is for a rapid test. If you tested positive, the next thing that they're going to do is they're going to draw blood because they want to make sure that you don't have a false positive, because again, it's medicine. There can be some issues. Now, if your blood comes back and it is reactive to HIV-1 and HIV-2, which are both
There's 2?
yes,
Oh,
yes,
no.
right?
This is crazy.
Then they will do something called the counseling, right? And so they'll talk to you
need a
about what your
therapist?
options are. Well, some people may, and that's the thing about sexual health in general, right? It is it's all your mental, all of that is connected. It's not just one, no. Everything that we have going on with us is connected. Your mind,
Sometimes.
body, heart, spirit, all of that. So yes, they will sit with you. They will give you all the options. Now this is not the 70s and the 80s when, the AIDS epidemic was really at its height, right? We are in a space and time now where there is a bunch of different medicines, and I can't name them all because half of them I can't even spell, to be honest. And I can spell really well, but I'm like, these names are crazy. But they will set you up to figure out what medicines work for you. So like aptitude and all of those different things, they'll ask you, they'll see, what your lifestyle is depending on how you got it in the first place. So if you got it from injection drug use, your plan is going to look completely different than someone who got it from a heterosexual sexual transaction.
Oh my goodness,
Or-
there's so many ways to get it.
Yeah. Right? Or it's going to look different for a person who has sex with men. Yeah.
You've taught us a lot.
Yes.
You've taught us a lot, and
I'm
I
glad.
can
This
guarantee
is
you've taught
really
our
intense.
viewers so much. And I guess my last question will be, what do you hope to see, or what change do you hope to see in the way sexual education is taught to young adults?
I want everyone to be able to get access to all of the sex education that they need, not just what they think is cute and not just the things that come off as the basic stuff, right? I want you to get the nitty gritty because it's not meant to scare you. It's meant to really teach you, and so that you can be the most productive individual that you can be in life.
Amazing. Thank you very
like-
much.
You're
Wow.
That was really good.
Now, I want to send
Yes.
it over to our leftovers because I feel like we have a lot to take away from this.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
like,
definitely stuffed.
Wow.
We have a lot to take away from
I don't know. I
this.
feel like my eyes are open.
You're not ready for dessert?
Girl, what is dessert?
Maybe tomorrow.
I need a Pepto-Bismol.
I would say Doxypep. I mean, that is like the most, I think, astounding thing that I've learned. Doxypep, because I didn't even know that existed.
Plan B for STIs, y'all.
I
Check
did
it out.
not know that Doxypep existed,
Not
and that's
Doxypep.
something that I plan on looking into. I hope a lot of people plan on looking into, whether it's like you're engaging in sexual acts or it's just something that you want to be more aware of. Because again, it's like even young adults can take it, and I think that is absolutely vital to understand that this is something for everyone. This is something that, I mean, even teens who are still figuring themselves out should also look into. So yeah, no, and I really appreciate you passing that information both to me, co-host, and the rest of
Yeah.
our viewers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what stood out to me was the statistic. I think Tezera, our photographer, got a picture of me. I like jaw
Yeah.
dropped for a minute. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah,
It's
that
just
was
like,
59.
I don't know. I felt like if I was walking, I would have stopped in my tracks and like.
I would. my
That's
heart
crazy.
dropped when
Yeah,
I saw
like,
it.
I
You
was
know
like,
that one. You know
ooh.
that one Vine that she was like, have people ever told you you look like Beyonce? And they're like, no. I usually tell them I look like Shalissa, and then she goes,
Yeah.
that was me.
But like, it was just like a wow. Like, it really shows that like how much this like talk is needed for like
Yeah.
a lot of people.
And I want to note that one of the interesting things about that statistic is that was just between 2015 and 2020. Now we still are technically in this pandemic of COVID, right? And so that means that some of these numbers are not necessarily concrete because there was a lot of people who didn't get tested, right? And haven't gotten tested because we outside, but you know,
Nah, don't itch.
some people still not doing what they need to do in terms of their sexual
Y'all better
health.
get on y'all Zooms and wrap it up. I'm not playing with you.
Taylor, how about you?
Wow.
What'd you learn?
What would you take away?
Well, first of all, I'm not having sex. I can't do this. This is too much. It's too
Well,
much
I don't
effort.
want you to be scared.
No, I'm not scared. I'm just putting my foot down right now because you're not gonna get me.
But even in situations like that, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
where it's personal abstinence, I still think like doxypep. You know what I mean? Like getting on
I
that
didn't
medication.
say abstinence.
Oh, not but you know that.
Oh.
Whatever you said.
The conversation showed that like even if you are scared, there's so many resources for
Exactly.
you to not be scared.
I learned it's a couple reasons to be scared.
But you also
I mean,
learned the
but that is
resources.
if
But I
you
did learn the
are
resources,
doing risky
yes.
behavior, right?
Yes. You know what? I learned to be proactive and not reactive, and I learned that you gotta stay ready, so you ain't gotta get ready.
Right.
I like
'Cause
that.
I refuse to get ready.
Mystique, you take anything away from the conversation?
Yes, I
I think you're
have
so
taken
pretty.
away. Thank you so much. I have taken away that I think that sometimes I'm concerned about the youth that we have, but you all have showed me that listen, sometimes it's not your fault, right? But you
Thank
all
you.
have shown me that there are youth out here who are willing to gain the knowledge and take it in and actually use it moving forward for positive. So I appreciate
This is
that.
cute.
Now I think there's one thing left. It's
Yeah.
our
The question.
about love.
Question of the episode about love for the questions of loves on the
I love
episode.
that little song.
Thank you.
When's the first time you felt truly loved?
Ooh, this is a spicy question.
What?
Okay. So I would
feel like this one
say
fits
the
really
first.
well.
This one's
So
a really good
okay,
one.
wait. Let me be clear because there's levels to it, right?
It's levels to the story. You and I know.
So when you ask that question, are you saying from a familial standpoint, like my family, or are we talking about from a romantic, like partner standpoint?
It
That
could
was
be
I
good.
think, yeah, it depends
could
on where
be.
you take it. Like,
Yeah.
when do you remember like this? My first act of love, like wow, like this stood out to me, and I remember it to this day.
Well, I would have to say just growing up with a single mom. Like my mom has always been my number one cheerleader. So fun fact, I got a new job yesterday.
Come on.
And I text my mom and I didn't even put the phone down before she was on my phone. Like, oh my God, so what are we going to do? And all the things, right? And she was like, well, how are you going to answer her? She's going to say, are you just going to say, oh, yes, it's just another job? Because lately, the last couple of jobs that I have, I'm like, it's just a job, whatever. But this one, I was like, oh, no, I'm so excited, right? So I think that my mom being able to instill the love in me that she didn't necessarily feel like she had and that she wanted to be able to give off, I think that is when I first. So when I was in the
So
womb.
beautiful.
Period. I love that.
I would say
Beautiful answer.
similarly. I think whenever I became whenever you grow up and you realize that your parents are people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then you start to
Whoa.
think about all the sacrifices they've given for you.
Oh,
Just
you
to
got feelings too.
I was about to
Yeah,
say,
like,
oh wow, okay,
oh,
I see it, and
You
then
really
you're just
was a
like,
kid once.
I get it, and I think like coming into that and realizing that all my parents were given to me and given up for me, it was just, I think that I felt an immense level of love and gratitude for.
I love that for you.
It's cute.
You guys?
Ernie, you want to go or you want me to go?
I mean, I'm gonna hop on the parent train. Like I
Okay.
love my
Oh,
parents.
man, mine's not about parents.
Oh, all right. Then
Okay.
let me finish, and then you
Okay,
can start your
okay.
own turn. Yeah. But yeah, I think my parents are like my first like vision of love. Like they've been together since high school, and though like I don't think I want a high school romance to like adult romance pipeline. I don't know. Maybe I'm not gonna complain.
Not
I
the
mean, hey,
pipeline.
but just like seeing them and like seeing how they still navigate like decisions together it's like really inspiring. And I think just like seeing them every day, like since I was born, was like, well, I don't remember when I was born, but like just since I can remember, they have always been like the epitome of love to me.
That's beautiful.
That's so beautiful.
What's this train you about to take us on?
Oh boy.
So I have two. My first one is going to be very quick because I don't want to cry about it. But my best friend recently just passed last year. But when we met, I had like a little situation. I used to walk home from school, and I had a little situation with a crossing guard. And I went home, and I told my friend, and he told him. And so he walked me home from school every day. And he was walking me in Wilmington, and he lived in Claymont. If you don't know Delaware, that's like a
Yes.
20-minute drive.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, he would have to get a ride home. But other than that, I would say I was dealing with this individual, and I was having a hard time expressing how I feel because I don't talk about it. It just feels kind of like, to me, it's not me. But I was getting frustrated, and I was like starting to cry, and I don't like to cry. So he took my hands and he turned me towards him. He was like, breathe. This is going to be okay. You can talk to me and take your time. And I was like, oh my God, that is so cute. I love that for me. And that just made me feel a feeling that I never felt. I was like warm and fuzzy. I was like, oh, that's what y'all be talking about? I feel like a meatball right now. This is amazing.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Very
that's
sweet.
beautiful. And on that note, we're sending it back over. That's the end of Dinner with Friends. Thank
Y'all
you
full?
so much,
Thank
Mystique,
y'all.
for joining us.
Hope y'all
Thank
Thank you to
you.
our audience for listening, for
And
watching,
my
wherever you're
audience,
catching
thank you
this.
to my audience.
Listen. Wait, did I say mine?
No.
Oh, it's just, okay, never mind. But no, for real, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you soon,
I love
whoever
you
that may
Yes,
be.
we love you.
Mystique, we hope to see you soon,
Yes.
whoever
Hope to
that
see
may
you
be.
all, too.
Yes.
On a
Guys, thank you
billboard.
very much for
I'ma see her
joining.
on a
Peace and
billboard.
love. Till next time.
Bye.
Mwah.
Bye, Pooks.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.